Happy Friday, degenerates! Welcome back to the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. It is time for UFC 301 pay-per-view fight week, baby. I could not be more excited. And those face-offs, oh, they got me ready to go. I'm juicing. I am juicing. I'm juicing like multiple of the Silvas that were on stage today. I cannot wait for this fight card. I know we kind of nitpicked it. We said there's not as much name value. I don't care. It's going to be a banger. There's going to be a ton of wars on this card. There's going to be a bunch of finishes on this card. I'm already losing my voice and the fights haven't even started yet. I hope you guys are kicking ass. We did it. We made it. It's Friday. We've got one more sleep, as the GOAT John Anik would say, until we've got these fights. So what we do here on the Undefeated post-weigh-in show, you already know. We take everything we've learned over the course of the week. We watch the fighters step on the scale. We watch the face-offs. I will relay to you the necessary information that you might have missed or you might need from these weigh-ins and face-offs, and then you can use that information to make some good bets. And on this show, there's never been a bad read. There's never been a bad bet, and that is why we call it the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. And you never know. Every once in a while, that tinfoil hat might pop out and make an appearance. Let's get into it, everybody. All right, first fight of the night. You've got Kevin Boras taking on Alessandro Costa. Boras made 125.5 pounds. Costa, 125 on the dot. Championship weight for my guy. Boras, honestly, looked really good on the scales today. Has that nice streak of red in the hair. I love it. I'm jealous. Wish I could pull that off. Alessandro Costa, absolutely freaking jacked. This guy is built insanely. There's a lot of physiques on this card that we got to talk about. This guy is definitely one of them. He refilled extremely well from the weigh-ins to the ceremonials. Looks like he is full and ready to go. Boras does have a slight height advantage here in this spot, but damn, Costa's thick. Like, it's not that big of a difference. He's not like hugely taller than him, but there's a size and a physicality difference coming from the Costa side. This was a great stare down. Boras looks like he's ready to go as far as this whole enemy territory type of fight thing. He seems to be built for it. It was pretty funny though. Costa kind of motioned at Boras that he was like, listen, when they started doing the you're gonna die chant. He kind of told him to listen up to that. I love this fight, guys. I think it's going to be a banger. I know a lot of people with a lot of real and big opinions on this one. I know a lot of people, sharp people actually, who have snatched up the Kevin Boras dog money earlier on in the week. This line is crashed. It is closed. We are this close to a pick'em. You can get plus 100 or just slightly above that right now on Kevin Boras. If you still like it, it's one of those any plus money is good money type of situations. But for me, I've leaned the Costa side all week. Now, I am not confident enough to go against this market move. I am not confident enough to go against the sharp people who I respect that are on the Boras side. So I'm passing. I'm staying off it. I'm not going to touch this one. But what I might do is bet the under. This fight smells like violence to me, guys. I'm always inclined to bet unders on the curtain jerker. First fight of the night. Start the show off with a bang, especially when we're in Brazil. But we've seen Costa rocked and wobbled a couple times. Boras almost KO'd Josh Van in his last fight. Boras, even though he's been tough, he's been durable. I think there's a big grappling edge for Alessandro Costa. I think there's a way that both these guys could finish this fight. And getting minus 110, minus 120, something like that on the under 2.5. Or maybe we just suck it up and we lay the extra juice. It's like minus 160, minus 165. But the fight doesn't go the distance, so we can buy those extra couple of minutes there at the end of the fight. This one could go the full 15 just because of how tough both of these guys are, entirely possible. But I kind of think they're going to bang it out. I kind of think this one's going to be a war and somebody goes to sleep. So I may add the under to my card here for this first fight of the night. Ismail Bonfim takes on Vince from Hell, P-Shell. Both guys weighed in at 156 pounds. No real issues for Ismail Bonfim or Vince. Classic Vince. He's got the epic mustache looking good up there, but a bit gray. He's definitely showing that 40 years of age up there. Bonfim looks like he's in phenomenal shape. We were worried a little bit because he missed weight last time. Looks fine up there today. Big size difference, guys. Vince is massive. Like, this is the thing that I kind of was like, well, I gotta pick Bonfim to win this fight. My opinion hasn't changed. But I think Vince is going to be a son of a bitch out there. I don't think he's going to go away easily. He's got such a big physicality and size difference. Even though Bonfim is like, he's got really potent counter striking, that's going to be tough to get off on Vince Pichel to the point that you finish him. And even though he's probably got a grappling advantage, Bonfim, the size difference, I think, is going to kind of even that out. Vince is a decent enough wrestler himself, and he's extremely hard to control positionally speaking. So could Bonfim sub Vince Pichel? Yeah, maybe, but not a lot of people can do that. It's very, very difficult. He's not going to be an easy guy to keep down there. In fact, I think Vince can probably put that size to work and kind of lean on Bonfim, push him up against the fence, reverse some of those positions, just be a beast when it comes to the clinch situation because he is much, much larger. So I'm picking Bonfim to go ahead and get the win, but I kind of like overs in this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Bonfim by greasy decision, and I wouldn't even hate anybody taking a stab on fight goes the distance, or even Vince Pichel by decision. Those are like juicy, sexy numbers. That's the only way I could look in this fight. I don't want to parlay this guy who's already been a parlay buster, who's already let everybody down at a giant price tag. He's even bigger now, minus 550. I'm not trusting him. So you do have an old man who probably should be winding down his MMA career sooner than later. You do have a young, hungry fighter who's probably getting better and improving. Got to pick Bonfim. Got to do it. But I'm not laying this number. And I don't even have the confidence to say, Bonfim inside the distance or anything like that here. Next up, we've got Diane Barbosa. She is taking on Ernesta Caracate. We've got 126 for Barbosa, 125.5 for Caracate. And I'm still not sure how to say that last name. I got to do some more work, apparently, since I say it differently every single time I read it. But Barbosa in fantastic shape. Very, very strong. Abs popping out. She looks great. Ernesta, no real problem. She's got that tall, lanky, skinny muscle thing going on. Good face-off. Obviously, the height advantage goes to Ernesta. Very intense stare down from both of these ladies. This is going to be a fun fight. Two prospects, both of whom could turn the corner at any point in time and be the one that the UFC looks to push. They're trying to set Barbosa up with a good, solid, easy win in her home country, coming off Dana White's Contender Series. The grappling advantage, once again, it's a big, big deal in this fight. I think it's striker versus grappler, and then it's just a bigger gap between grappling advantage and disadvantage, right? So Barbosa, even though she's probably not the better striker of the two, it's a closer match on the feet than it is on the ground, right? So I've got Barbosa in a parlay. I've used, we'll get there, but I've used Yasmin Lucindo to basically anchor every single parlay piece I want on this card because I think she's my favorite piece on this entire card. So I'm anchoring her with multiple other pieces to get the number where I want them. As long as Yasmin Lucindo wins, the idea is to just kind of buy down on some of these other pieces where I don't want to lay as big of a price tag. So it's a bit of a strategy thing. This way I've got Diane Barbosa coming in, around the minus 120 type of ballpark instead of trying to chalk up and lay minus 200 on a UFC debutante. But honestly, I like the submission. I think Barbosa probably gets her down to the ground, finds her way to the back, finds her way on top, arm triangle, something like that, rear naked choke. She probably taps her out in this fight. I'd be very impressed. I want to see it. I think that's how it goes. Next up, Jamie Malarkey takes on Mauricio Ruffy, and we've got 155 for Malarkey, 156 for Ruffy. No issues for Jamie Malarkey really today. He does always look like he's got a bit of a tough weight cut. He always does look like he's a bit sucked out, but pretty much classic first generation upright caveman Jamie Malarkey on the scale today. Ruffy looks good, no problem. He's got that McGregor body. You know what I'm talking about, where it's like the chest shelf that McGregor has, where it's like you're totally flat in the torso, and then you've got that hard line. Whoop, there's the pecs. He looks exactly physically like McGregor to me when it comes to that body makeup and build. Big flex from Ruffy. This was a great stare down. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm a little nervous because like I mentioned, I'm anchoring everything on Yasmin Lucindo. I did parlay Ruffy with Yasmin Lucindo. Now, Ruffy opened up a dog in this spot. He has flipped to being the favorite. He has steamed all the way up to being a 2-1 favorite. This line move is pure insanity. Like, we all see the same things, right? Like, we know Jamie Malarkey has a questionable chin sometimes. We know he's been knocked out a bunch. We know he's coming off a quick turnaround and a quick knockout. So there's a real opportunity here that he is not quite what he needs to be to fight a guy like this. And when you've got the speed and the power and the accuracy of a Ruffy, it just screams KO. But when the guy opened up dog and now he's minus 240, like, that's an insane swing. I didn't expect the number to keep going the way that it was. I'm just a little nervous. Like I said, I wanted to bring this price down. I parlayed Ruffy with Lucindo so I could get somewhere near even money on that. And that's the way I've chosen to approach this. But at this point, I would stay clear of this. Like, this is turned into a bit of a dog or pass at this number. If you want to do something like I did, where you're doing a parlay, you understand full damn well that this is the wrong price to pay for this fighter, and you want to link him up with somebody that you're more confident in so you can play it somewhere near even money, I'm fine with that strategy. Obviously, I'm doing myself. If you want to play the KO prop, I think I get that as well in this spot. My only concern with that is that Ruffy does tend to be a little bit low volume. He lets those knockouts really come to him rather than chasing them. So there's a very real chance that the knockout just never shows up. He could just go the full 15 and maybe win a greasy, close split decision based on bigger power shots or knockdowns, stuff like that. So I am picking Ruffy to win, but I don't like it. And the size difference here is very concerning because Malarkey is huge. Malarkey's got a decent size advantage here in this spot. This was a great stare down, but Malarkey always comes to fight. He's a guy that is more than willing to get in there. He's more than willing to mix in the grappling. He drags his opponents to the floor. He seals off rounds when they're close with takedowns with like a minute, 40 seconds left on the clock. Very, very solid IQ for an MMA fighter as far as he goes. I'm nervous. And at plus 180, I wouldn't mind anybody taking the stab here on Jamie Malarkey. Now, I've the last couple of weeks, somebody's size has surprised me. There's been several fighters recently where the size has been a bigger storyline after seeing them face off. Where like I kind of thought Ruffy was going to be taller and longer. I thought he was going to have a decent advantage there, and it turns out he doesn't. And not only that, it's a noticeable enough size difference that it makes me really uncomfortable. So I'd be careful on this one. I'd be careful. It's my usual spot to fade these debutante fighters with someone who's got UFC caliber experience, and it's their first fight in the organization. Malarkey is kind of the perfect example of that in this spot. If it wasn't for the quick turnaround and how brutal his last KO was, I probably wouldn't be making the move that I am, but I really am betting against Jamie Malarkey's chin at this point. I talked about it on the Monday show. If you guys missed the Monday show, Jamie Malarkey's last knockout was awful. He basically got knocked out twice in the same fight. So I think it's too quick of a turnaround, too bad of a knockout. We got to bet against that. We're going to take our shot, but minus 200 is not the right price tag. Next up, you've got Drakkar Klose. He's taking on Joaquim Silva, 156, 155 and a half for Silva. Classic Klose on the scale. It's always a bit of a tough weight cut for him, but he's okay. Silva, on the other hand, looks incredible. Just unreal. Absolutely jacked. This man has way too much muscle on his frame. I have no idea how he does it. He's got like the Liver King diet thing going on. He has the real version of the Liver King's fake abs. That's how jacked Joaquim Silva is in this spot. These guys actually size up really well. Klose was super amped up. He gave him like the steroid jab in the ass signal up there when they were facing off. It was pretty hilarious, but Klose seems like he was real worked up and amped up on the scales, whereas Silva was almost a little unnaturally calm. I mean, like Hunter looking at his prey, nothing but like an evil, villainous smile on his face while he's staring him down type of vibe here. This is another tough one where I think the line is just a little bit too wide. I did also pick Drakkar Klose, but these are two guys, and I'll be honest with you guys. I'll tell you guys when I know somebody. I'll tell you guys when I'm on a heater. I'll tell you when I'm losing my ass. I do not have a good read on either of these fighters. Now, as far as their skill sets, I can regurgitate what they're good at and what they're bad at pretty easily, but I do not have a good betting track record on either of them. So I don't really want to pick a spot here. I don't want to place a bet here. I feel like Klose is the right side. I feel like the line is a little too wide. Would it surprise me if either of these guys won in any method? No. Like, if this was a hairy, greasy fight and it was close and Silva got the hometown decision, not shocked. If it was close, but Drakkar ended up doing enough to edge it out, that kind of is how I see the fight going. That wouldn't surprise me. If Silva bombs on Klose early, he's been hurt before. He's got an injury history. That wouldn't shock me one bit. If Drakkar Klose hit Silva with a spinning back fist when he got a little tired and slowed down, that checks out too. If Klose grabs a submission after wobbling Silva, or Silva does the exact same damn thing, the guy's name is Neto BJ. Like, seriously, every single outcome on this thing could happen and would not shock me. In that kind of a circumstance, it's a pass. For the sake of record keeping, I am picking Drakkar Klose to win this fight. I think it's an interesting to watch live. I think there's maybe an opportunity to bet on one of these guys live betting style. If Silva comes out hard, doesn't quite get the finish, maybe slows down a bit, you could take a poke on Close live. If Close looks like he's getting hurt a lot early, you can maybe get like a pick 'em price tag or something, dive in on Silva at that point if it looks like he's got full control. I make a judgment after you see these guys get in there for a round, because I think this fight is going to be, I think we're going to know. You know what I mean? Once they get in there, I think we're going to see some advantages and disadvantages. I just don't have it pre-flop for you. Next up, you've got Elvis Brener. He's taking on Orolbay here. 156 for Brener, 155.5 for Orolbay. Brener looked a little rough today. Now, you guys have all seen the video. I'm sure we all have, where he's just absolutely in the depths of hell in his sauna box with his teammates in there, grabbing his arms and hugging him. And one of the guys even like in the box there with him. Hey, there's plenty of gay jokes running around here. If the homie's not in the weight cutting box with me, they ain't real. Okay. That's just what it is. If your boy won't weight cut with you and run their fingers through your hair while you're struggling to weight cut and you're almost on death's door, no, I don't want it. I don't want it. Just saying. So next, Orolbay, he looked fantastic. He's got the hat, which I need a ruling, because dead animal on the head is like automatic winner. But what about the awesome cap? Like, I feel like guys that wear hats win more often than not in the UFC, and not like baseball caps, right? But like traditional ethnic, your heritage type of hats. They just seem to take over the UFC, and Orolbay was rocking a cool one today. So I feel like that's a lean our direction here, right? Brener was a little bit slow walking to the scale at the ceremonials, but frankly, it looks like he rehydrated pretty well. Also, he's another one of these guys that just has a brutal weight cut, and once he gets some time to get some fluids back in him, he's okay. He's bouncing back. But I got to wonder, this one, was that footage different from his last couple weight cuts? Like, it looked bad. You know what I mean? It looked really bad. But is that how he looks for every single weight cut? A lot of us are going to jump on that and be like, he looked awful, bro. Like, he looked so bad. He was going to die. But what if he goes through that every time? Like, this might just kind of be his process. Even though it looked like it was terrible, we've seen this guy perform, and we've seen this guy put on insane performances where he's been hurt and he's come back from it. And if he goes through that kind of a weight cut every single time, then this isn't the knock, and we need to not overcorrect just because we saw the video, right? They had to get held back. These guys were ready to go. I kind of liked how Orolbay matched the energy here in this spot. He looks like he would be the type of guy, almost like a Jung Young Park, where he would just be kind of very calm and like maintain himself and keep to his own. But as soon as Brener came in amped up, he was ready to get in there. And I love it. I love him matching the energy here in this spot. This is another one who I've linked up with Yasmin Lucindo, bringing the price tag down. I think Orolbay is the rightful favorite here in this spot. I am terrified to bet against Elvis Brener just because of the way he's come through in his last couple fights, because of the way he's fought through adversity. No matter what his opponents do to him, he finds a way to win the damn fight. But at the same time, the bookies continue lining him at plus money. And I feel like it's getting to the point where it's trappy, where it's like, this guy keeps winning as a dog. Come on, bet him again. Like, I think this is the spot where he finally gets had. And I think Orolbay is a guy that's just going to be able to keep him down, stay one step ahead of him in the grappling style on him once we get down to the floor. And even though Brener is dangerous from his back, I don't think he's going to hit a triangle or an arm bar. Like, Orolbay is too good on the mat for something like that to happen. So I think he's just going to be able to kind of stick to this guy like glue. And then once they do get into the, striking realm, Orolbay is a very good boxer. He's got heavy hands himself. So this guy's got knockout power. He can get the respect. He can back Brener off. Oh, geez. Guys, the show is going down fast. My voice is failing me. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened. I woke up hoarse this morning and I feel fine. So I don't think I'm sick or anything, but I do apologize for the audio quality here this week. I got to wrap this up. Otherwise, we're not going to make it to the main event. Karolina Kowalkiewicz takes on Yasmin Lucindo. We've got 116 for both ladies and really no issues on either side. Karolina always looks like she's a little bit banged up on the scales, but she's fine. She performs well. She's good to go. They size up very well in this spot. Slight height advantage for KK. This was a respectful face-off between these two. Like I mentioned, Yasmin Lucindo is my anchor this week, guys. I'm everything that I am on, everything that I'm kind of in on, I'm just parlaying it all to Yasmin Lucindo, because I think this is the spot where I get all my money back from losing to Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Now, famous last words, right? You can carve that into my headstone. When my wife kills me because of how much money I've lost gambling on MMA, and it's all Karolina's fault, you can carve that into my headstone. I just think she's too much. They size up very well, so it's not like there's going to be a big discrepancy in physicality or anything like that. She appears to be physically stronger to my eye. The way this girl grapples, both on top and on bottom, she'll be able to find opportunities and submissions. She's not going to get head and arm tossed or anything like that. In fact, she's not going to head and arm toss and give her back up the way Karolina's last opponent did, which screwed my bet last time. And then on the feet, she's going to be faster. She's going to have more volume, and she hits harder. I don't see a single box that Karolina checks where she is better than this girl. Experience. That's it. She's got the UFC caliber experience, but she's been scraping the bottom of the barrel of this weight class, not fighting great competition, and she's been squeezing by in some of these spots. I think the buck stops here. Yasmin Lucindo, and we're getting all the money back. I kind of feel like a KO. I like a little KO, maybe a round 2, round 3 sprinkle, knockout, Lucindo, plus 14-1. Yeah, let's go. All right. Joe Anderson Brito takes on Jack Shore up next. 146 for Brito, 145.5 for Jack Shore. Brito absolutely shredded. This is another guy that looks like he was just chiseled out of marble. Somebody just went ahead and made this guy. He's a freak of nature. His opponent, Jack Shore, at 145, soft body. Oh, he's one of these guys, Alex Morono. You just can never take anything away from how he looks physically, because that's how he always looks. I respect it. The ultimate male performer. You don't have to have abs. So Jack Shore, soft body on the scale, not worried about it. Brito was amped up, guys. I mean, like, fighting to get to this man, trying to break up the separation, screaming at him, pointing at the ground. Like, he's ready to perform at home. Jack Shore is slightly larger, though, and that was something that I needed to see. So here's the deal. I have tried to fade Joe Anderson Brito multiple times because I feel like he's got gaps in his game, right? And it doesn't matter because he keeps killing me. This guy, he's good everywhere, but he's got explosive power in every single limb. He's got one of the tightest squeezes you'll ever see, and he's good enough everywhere that he survives. He's a Yoel Romero type where he explodes when he needs to. He takes a breather, and somehow he catches a second, third, fourth, fifth wind and then does it all again. So these guys just can't manage to keep up with the physicality. And it could be 6-1 you versus him, but that one for him is going to count. And I am a little lower on Jack Shore. I faded him in his last, not his last fight, but the fight before that one. So we got the win over him in a spot where he kind of got exposed. I didn't like his last fight. Even though I made money on it last fight, I didn't like the way he got taken down and controlled early in round 1 up at 145. That seems like something that if Brito wanted to do, he could do too, because he's going to be the far more physical of the two. The thing for me is that Jack Shore is relentless. As long as he's conscious, he will continue to grapple. And that's the reason I bet JSP against Joe Anderson Brito. It's a very similar matchup, except the line is backwards now. So I don't want to lay minus 185 on Brito because this is exactly the kind of spot that I bet against him just a couple months ago. And I said if they ran it back, I would take JSP again. Now, I think more of JSP than I do Jack Shore. Maybe that's incorrect because we saw what just happened to JSP in his last fight, and he failed yet again, made another set of mistakes. If Jack Shore doesn't make those kind of mistakes, does he grind Brito out the way that I thought JSP was going to? Maybe he does. Maybe he does. He's a plus 155 underdog here in this spot. I think that Jack Shore by decision is going to be kind of the clearest path to victory for him. That's like plus 350. I wouldn't hate a sprinkle on that. And then I think on the flip side of this, Brito can win any way he wants. He can grind, he can win a decision, he can land the bigger shot and steal the moments, hometown crowd, etc. He can knock this guy out. He can knock anybody out. He can submit this guy. He can submit anybody. So I think there's a lot of ways that Brito can win, whereas Jack Shore pretty much only has the decision to his name. I mean, maybe he can submit him if he just gets the perfect opportunity, but I don't see him finishing via knockout, and I think it's very slim that he catches some kind of a submission. This is one, though, that I think you want to keep an eye on live, because if Brito comes out hard and heavy and emotional the way he did at the weigh-ins today, and maybe he goes for broke and he doesn't get Jack Shore out of there, Jack Shore's going to wrestle his ass off for 2 more rounds. So there's a very real possibility that we get a better number in fight if Brito is looking like he's not going to be able to keep up with Jack Shore. So I will say I'm picking Brito to win this fight. But again, I think this is a very easy live bet pivot type of situation that if you want Jack Shore, you'll be able to jump in there and get a number. And I think Jack Shore by decision is an okay play if you want to go that way. Brito inside the distance if you want to bring that money line number down, because minus 185 is healthy for this particular fighter. Next up, you've got Borralho taking on Paul Craig. 186 Borralho versus 185 Paul Craig. Borralho looked a bit sucked out, I'll be honest with you. A little bit tough on the scales for him today, but he's okay. He looked all right. Paul Craig, guys, he looks incredible at 185 pounds. This is a guy who was not out of his depth at 205. But when he moved down to 185, seems like he's really made his home here. He looked excellent. He looks in great shape, and he's big. When they face off, okay, wait. Before they face off, I love that Kaio has matched the energy of Paul Craig with the face paint. Like, nobody's coming out and going face paint for face paint with Paul Craig, and Kaio pulled the move. You'll love to see it. And on top of that, these guys are like just meme leveling each other up because Craig went with the silver hair. Craig dyed his hair white like a lot of these Brazilians do, you know, like Charles Oliveira does and the Shoot the Box boys do. I love that these guys are like playing 4D chess with each other pre-fight here in this spot. And facing off, like I said, intense. But guys, Paul Craig's huge. Paul Craig is massive in this spot. I have been well on record saying that I don't think Borralho is as good as people are making him out to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying he sucks. I'm not trying to disparage him. I just don't think he's as good as people are saying he is. I'm a longtime believer in Paul Craig. I'm a fan. You know, I want to see this guy win for the culture. I want the meme. And shout out my guy Maddie right here at Home of Fight. He's planting his flag on on Paul Craig by KO TKO. That's the move, right? And Craig has been on record this week saying that he's going to knock him out. Now, he's not going to do it standing, obviously. But with the size discrepancy, I could imagine a world where Paul Craig gets on top of Kaio. He is not a guy you fuck around with. He is not a bad grappler. In fact, that's his game. I mean, this guy submitted or finished Andre Muniz, who's a world-class grappler. Now, Kaio is a guy that I think has better cardio. So I think that does play a difference here in this spot. But am I going to be shocked whatsoever if Paul Craig gets on top of this guy with regularity? Really, I'm not. And even though Kaio is saying he's going to knock him out, he's a bit more of a patient guy. He's a bit more of a come to me type of guy. And he drags these fights deep. He's not going to like go out there and go for broke and put himself at risk. And because of that, that'll give Paul Craig opportunities. You know what I mean? If he's not going to come out and try and put a stamp on this thing and knock him out early, because we've seen Paul Craig be had, 4 knockout losses in the very first round. I could see this fight getting nasty. I could see this fight getting hairy. I love it. I love it. So I've gone ahead. I've got a hot take, in the next fight. And I went ahead and parlayed Paul Craig by KO with my hot take on Anthony Smith by sub, just for shits and giggles, guys. I did just a little. Actually, I had a free bet. And I linked those two up for a stupid number. I love it. I'm going to ride with my guy here on this one. I have to pick Borralho to win this fight. I do. I can't for the life of me actually go out on a limb and say that I believe that Paul Craig is going to win this fight. However, after seeing the size discrepancy, kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, do I think he's live at plus 455? You bet your sweet ass I do. I do think he's live at plus 455. I would play him inside the distance, though. I don't think he's almost ever winning a decision. He can submit anybody. He's very good down there. But I also think he wants to use his hands. So I kind of love the KO sprinkle at like 14, 16 to 1, whatever that number is that you're getting. Again, for the culture. I would love to see Paul Craig get a big finish win in enemy territory. It would be beautiful. All right. Michel Pereira takes on Ihor Potieria in the next fight. 186 for Pereira, 185 for Potieria. Potieria made it, guys. He made weight. He missed it last time coming down, and I was worried with the quick turnaround he might miss again here in this spot. So props on him. This weight class looks good on Ihor. It really does. I think he found his home here. Pereira, he looks good, guys. He looks like he filled out at 185. You're starting to see the muscles start to pop up again. This is a guy that cut himself down drastically to get to 170, and I never understood how he did it in the first place. And now he's starting to go the other way, where he's starting to fill that frame out at 185 pounds. So it looks good on him, too. He was having himself a time when he got to the ceremonial face-offs. Pereira's doing like a backflip on stage and dancing, and the crowd's going nuts. Like, it was great. Ihor is slightly larger, but it's not by a lot, guys. This is something that I was keeping a very close eye on, because Ihor Ihor coming down a weight class versus Michelle going up a weight class. I wanted to see what they really looked like when they got in there and they can smell each other's breath and their nose hairs are tickling each other. I needed to know who was the actual bigger man, right? It's definitely still Ihor, but it's not as big of a difference as I was expecting to see. I was kind of saying maybe Ihor's a little bit live. I'm not impressed at all by his last win, guys. I think Ihor fought a guy who just doesn't belong in the UFC. And yeah, he was able to win a decision in that spot, but he got hurt in that fight. He actually struggled with that guy a little bit too. Now Michelle Pereira, who's refueled, who's juiced up, who looks like a monster at 185. Can I get around the minus 600 price tag with this guy? Never, never. He's a well-known bed shitter. I'm not laying that kind of price on Michelle Pereira, but I am picking him to win. He should win this fight. He probably should finish this fight. And I would think it's the knockout, right? The bookies aren't doing you any favors. Minus 150 on Pereira by KO. You can get plus 350 on him if you want to take that flyer on submission. I think the reason he got that sub was opportunistic because it's a guy who can't grapple. I don't think he goes to that in a spot like this. And Ihor, we've seen him be a little bit fragile. We've seen him be a little bit chinny. I do think it's going to be a KO for Michelle Pereira. Is it early? Is it late? You tell me. I'm not entirely sure. We're picking Pereira. We're picking Pereira by KO. I don't know that I want to lay chalk on Pereira by KO. I did lay chalk on an inside the distance prop last week, and I was very confident. It worked out well for me. I don't know if I need to go back to the well again this week on a guy like this, but we are picking him to win. Next fight up, we've got Vitor Petrino, 206, taking on Anthony Lionheart-Smith, 205 and a half. Vitor Petrino, his abs are absolutely ridiculous. Huge flex on the scales here today. Anthony Smith, though, it's weird, guys. Zero motion. Zero motion. Just looks blank slate up there. Moving slow. I'm not loving the body language from Anthony Smith. Now, maybe you can say that it's like the calm before the storm, but I always worry about guys who are usually just a little bit more animated suddenly being so muted that I'm worried that they're kind of holding themselves back mentally in these types of spots. But the face-off was great, and it kind of laid to rest some of my concerns there because he met Vitor Petrino's eyes. No problem. No fear. No nothing. He was in that moment with him. And Anthony Smith is talking, any of his interviews and stuff like that. He apparently like chatted with Glover Teixeira, and Glover told him to kind of live in the moment, stop worrying so much about the future. And one of the things he mentioned is how like he's always looking at what's next, who fights who. He's talked about chasing the title. It's kind of haunting him that he's let all that stuff go now. And I don't know if that's the last effort of a broken man who just wants to try to, reestablish his career at this point, trying anything new, different to get in there. But there's a very real possibility that he's a free man now if he is changing the way that he's thinking that way. Slight size advantage from Anthony Smith in this spot. And guys, I pulled the trigger. I got to bet on my brothers, right? Last week, we got Bogdan Guskov, plus 170. He came out, had an amazing showing, knocked Span's ass out, and we're rolling right back to it. I bet Anthony Smith plus 425. And I know you guys are going to say I'm insane. I know you're going to say I'm lighting money on fire. But the fact is, Anthony Smith shows up when he gets disrespected and when he gets a break in competition. So you look back at what this guy's done. He's been facing nothing but a murderer's row of fighters. He's been fighting nothing but title challengers and contenders, and that is who he's losing to. Anytime he gets a break in competition, Ryan Spann, Jimmy Crute, Devin Clark, he kills these guys. He goes in there and he does work against these guys that are not challenging for a title. And Vitor Petrino, I'm not sold as ready to challenge for a title. This guy is all the hype. Don't get me wrong. He's awesome. He's 11-0, undefeated. He's finishing everybody. But his last fight where he couldn't quite handle Tyson Pedro and ended up winning a decision in that spot, that concerned me. That really was a spot that concerned me. And I think kind of almost exposed him a little bit. The Modestas Pekaukas fight. I said he was going to knock him out. I said he was absolutely going to knock him out. It took him to round 2 to do it. And I was starting to get a little bit worried that it wasn't coming. Like this guy, he's young, he's improving, but I am seeing like little gaps where I'm like, okay, I don't know that he's there yet, guys. He's 26 years old. He's got lots of room to grow and improve, and this is a massive leap up in competition. If Anthony Smith is anything like he could have been or has been, I think he's going to make this fight very competitive. And we have seen Vitor Petrino lose transitions on the ground. We've seen him in bad positions against guys like Anton Turkalj. I can guarantee you that Anthony Smith is a better grappler than Anton Turkalj. And so I played the sub prop. I got 14-1 on the Anthony Smith by sub, half unit shot there. So what I always do is I go full unit money line, half unit finishing method. And then I did sprinkle, we're going full Chase Hooper here, boys and girls. I sprinkled Anthony Smith round 3 submission. It's 50-1. 50-1. Anthony Smith is a specialist at dragging his opponents deep and drowning them. And if he takes a beating from this kid and then pushes the pace and gets in his face, maybe forces him to panic shoot takedowns, once Vitor Petrino is no longer in the driver's seat entirely, that's when Anthony Smith does his best work. And if he takes over, it'll be round 2, round 3. And if he wins, I think it's way more likely sub than it is KO when this guy tries to take him down and maybe shoots a sloppy takedown or something like that, and he grabs a neck or transitions to the back. We're taking a shot. I wish I had thought about this last week for the shits and giggles, guys. Not even for like seriously betting purposes, but like for the meme, I would have parlayed Gustav with Anthony Smith, and it never even occurred to me. I am very upset at myself for letting that one slide. But here we are. We got plus 425 on Anthony Smith. I think that's a ridiculous number. At 16-1, Anthony Smith, best path to victory. And then just that, just the little sprinkle, the little icing on the cake. The round 3 sub at 50-1. These are not big bets, and that's something that I've been working on, right? Like these stupid, insane long shot, cash grabs that I go for like this. A couple of years ago, you would have caught me putting 3-4 units on something like this and convincing myself it was happening. 1 unit on the money line, guys. Small bet. Don't go crazy. Don't go nuts. He's supposed to lose this fight. I think he stands a chance to pull the upset, but we're not going to lose our ass on it if he doesn't. Jose Aldo. 136 takes on Jonathan Martinez, who came in at the same weight here. Aldo did need the box of shame, but he's one of these Brazilian balloons. Haven't used that term in a while. He cut down to a new weight class, and I don't know how they do it, but they seriously just inflate after they make their weight. He looks incredible, guys. Jose Aldo, like physical transformation. I'm starting to think that this new drug testing setup here with the UFC is not really doing that great of a job. Either that or they're kind of doing this thing with the King of Rio coming back from retirement, because Jose Aldo physically looks insane. Jonathan Martinez, he always looks like he's a bit sucked out, a bit tough on the scales. He's not a small guy for this weight class. No real problem. It doesn't really affect his performance. He's good to go. Jose Aldo does have a size advantage in this spot, and Jose Aldo has a crazy eyes advantage in this spot. When they face off and they met eyes, Aldo had fire in there that I haven't seen for quite some time. This was a fantastic stare down. And on top of that, Jonathan Martinez was a whole hell of a lot more respectful. When they faced off for the first time, they did like the forehead to forehead thing where they were like grinding up against each other and trying to win the battle of dick measuring. And he didn't do that this time. So interesting. Right? I'm not sure what to make of that. Like, he goes hard the first time and then checks himself the second time when he's on stage with a bunch of Brazilians chanting that he's going to die. I mean, I wouldn't rock that crowd either, but I'm just saying, like, he's not keeping the same energy. And I think that might be kind of a check mark of Jose Aldo winning the mental battle just ever so slightly. Jose Aldo, like I mentioned, has the slight size advantage. I did bet him here, guys. And the numbers come down just a little bit from where I got it. I think I got plus 135. He's about plus 120 right now. And then I did put a full unit, guys, full unit on Jose Aldo by knockout. I got plus 700. That number's come down a decent bit already. It's plus 550 right now at DraftKings. So $1.50 worth of movement for that to come down. Let me just tell you guys, Jonathan Martinez is a guy who, while I respect and while I enjoy, and it's a guy that I'm impressed with his skill set, he has never, ever, ever been a title challenger to me. He's never been a guy that I expected to be fighting for a number next to his name or for a spot where he's in the inner circle looking for a title shot, right? I feel like he's punching above his weight class. I feel like this guy is overperforming based on our expectations of him. Once again, this is a big step up in competition. The back class difference here is insane. Jose Aldo is the best of the best, who's fought only the best of the best, who's only lost very close fights to the absolute best, guys with gold wrapped around their waist. You can't say that for Jonathan Martinez, right? He got a leg kick KO over the ancient Cub Swanson. He fought closely with Vince Morales, who got cut from the organization, right? Like the Adrian Yanez leg kick TKO, Seems like that might have been just bad planning on Yanez, and Yanez might have just been exposed. You know what I mean? Like, as much as we all love Adrian Yanez, he may have just been exposed as not the guy we thought he was going to be. You're not leg kicking the shit out of Jose Aldo and winning that battle. Nobody does. Nobody has. Nobody ever has. And then if you go back through Jonathan Martinez, his earlier career, and I know we don't want to hold that too much against him. Young fighter. He's made adjustments. He's improved. Sure. But guys, he's chinny. He's never not been chinny. His game plans have been good, and he's been fighting the right guys when that hasn't been a problem recently. But it's there. He's been dropped 4 times over his UFC career. In fact, you go back to the fight where he lost to Andrei Sukumtov. Andrei Sukumtov, guys, he got dropped twice in that fight. He lost a split decision to Andre Ewell, a guy who I had on my fade list and made piles betting against, just auto bet against Andre Ewell. In fact, I think I lost money on Jonathan Martinez losing that fight. And then Davey Grant, my guy, Davey Grant, just sparked him. Jose Aldo hits harder than any of those guys. Jose Aldo has been boxing in this 2-year layoff. He hasn't been just sitting on his ass. He's been competing. He's been conditioning. He's been working on his hands. His boxing was already better than Jonathan Martinez, and it's going to be even better this time around. And then you want to talk about leg kicks? Jose Aldo invented the leg kick. Like, I said this earlier on the card with Carolina and Yasmin. I don't see a single spot except for youth where Jonathan Martinez is better than Jose Aldo. I don't. And so I bet Jose Aldo. I bet, I think 2 units. Did I do 2 units or 3 units? I can't remember. I'm going to have to go back and look. I did 2 units and then I did a full unit on the knockout is what I did. Because, guys, I think we are going to be reminded of how chinny Jonathan Martinez is in this spot. I don't think he's going to like those epic rib roasters from Jose Aldo. Aldo has KO'd people with body shots before. He's no stranger to it. And then once you've got Jonathan Martinez worried about his legs and his body, then Jose Aldo goes up high, and we've seen he cannot take those shots. I really believe Jose Aldo is going to get a knockout, and he's going to reestablish himself as the King of Rio. Even if this does end up being his retirement fight, I'm not sure it is actually his retirement fight, but even if it does end up being that, I think he goes out on top, and I think this is a great matchup for him to actually pull that off. So we're all in. Jose Aldo, come on, King of Rio, do it for me one more time, big guy. Main event, everybody. I am struggling through this voice crack in here, so I apologize again for the audio, but do me a favor and show me some love. Hit the like button if this is once the stream ends. Jump in the comments section for me. Let me know who your favorite bet is for this weekend. And if you're on social media, share this bad boy out. Help me spread the words just a little bit. Alexandre Pantoja takes on my guy, Steve Erceg. 125 pounds for both men. Alexandre Pantoja needed the box of shame today. It's always a tough cut, guys. It's always a really tough cut for Pantoja. You can see it on his face. He's always sucked out. He's always exhausted. And then he goes and fights his ass off for 25 minutes. So I'm not going to read into it, but it was rough for him this morning. Erceg, on the other hand, relaxed, no problem. This guy is big for the weight class, but it seems like he's got that weight cut down to a science, and he just is unbothered by, like, everything. I kind of love it. Like, Steve Erceg, you just can't mess with the guy. Like, he doesn't care. He's like a... I don't even know how to describe him. It's just not a damn thing in the world bothers him. And I think that's exactly what you need in a moment like this. You're in Rio with people chanting, you're going to die. The champion is Brazilian. And you're just kind of like, he's just unbothered. It just doesn't matter to him. Nothing matters. This guy's, he might be he might have a screw loose, and you've got to if you're going to be a professional fighter in the first place, right? But decent size advantage for Steve Erceg. Very respectful face-off in this spot, guys. I bet Steve Erceg right when I could, when the line dropped, plus 200. I got 2-1 on Steve Erceg. So we've got some nice closing line value on a couple different spots on this card. He's about plus 155 out there right now, and this is where it starts to teeter. The big plus money numbers, I think Steve Erceg is the side. The closer we get to pick him, the more you've got to respect the champ. Now, I know a lot of people hate that attitude when it comes to sports betting, but guys, the number absolutely matters. I would probably still bet Steve Erceg at plus 155 because I do truly believe he's going to win this fight tomorrow. But as we get down to, like, if it drops to like plus 130 or plus 120, you're running out of sauce. You're running out of value. That's where, like, hey, defend your belt. The champ is deserving the rightful favorite. If you get him down at like minus 150 or some shit, like, that's where maybe the disrespect has gone a little too far and you've got to kind of look favored or pass instead of dog or pass. But I freaking love Steve Erceg, guys. I'm buying in. It's maybe a little insane to think that he can go into Rio and take the belt off of an established champion with tons of UFC caliber experience. He might get his ass handled. He might get taken down and submitted. He might get pounded out in the first round. It's entirely possible that this kid just does not belong in the cage. with Alexandre Pantoja, but I think he does. And I think he's a bad matchup, frankly, for Pantoja. If he can keep the distance, if he can keep the range, he's a better striker on the feet. Even though Pantoja probably has more raw power than he does, I think the speed and the accuracy of Erceg is going to be the difference maker. It's just the ground that concerns me because obviously there's a gap there. I don't know if Pantoja is going to be able to get him down and keep him down. Erceg is a very underrated grappler. He's very scrambly. He does a good job of finding his way to top position. So I do think he can survive those transitions, get his way back up to the feet when he needs to, and that's going to be really the key to this fight. Once this thing gets out of like the first round and a half, I think Erceg can go to work with his hands. And when Pantoja starts to kind of run out of options, when he starts to get a little tired like he always does a little deeper in the fight, that's when I think Erceg can probably clip him with something and maybe even put him down. So I'm thinking Erceg round 3, 4, 5 KO. I know it's kind of rich of me to think that this guy has better cardio than Alexandre Pantoja and to assume in his first title fight ever that he's going to be able to out-cardio the champion of this weight class. But that's kind of how I'm expecting the fight to go. We've seen him go 3 rounds with no problem at a high pace, and it seems like he's still got gas in the tank to keep on pushing. So I am making an assumption here, but I think he can go the full 25 minutes if he needs to. And I'm going to take the shot, guys. Unfortunately, that plus 200 number is long gone. Like I said, personally, I'm a degenerate. I would still play the plus 155, but I wouldn't put as big of a bet on it. I felt like the line was kind of way too wide early on, but now that it's closer, like I said, you got to start giving the champion their respect at this spot. And I probably would have made a smaller bet. Now that the line is a little bit tighter like this, there's not as much value on the number. But I think we got and new, guys. I think we've got the double upset. Co-main and main event, both dogs coming home, bringing me home the bacon. So do with that information what you will, guys. As always, I'm telling you what I am betting. You're welcome to tail me if you want to, but I'm not a professional. I hope this show gives you the information you need to make good, proper decisions. I hope you cash all of your tickets tomorrow. And just for good measure, I'm putting on the tinfoil hat. We're cashing co-main and main event dogs, probably both by knockout in my estimation. We're going to make some crazy parlays. I think there's some good value on some great numbers, some awesome fun shit that we can do this week on some of these props. And Anthony Smith, baby, just one more time. One more Anthony for the family. So we've got something to celebrate and talk about this year at Thanksgiving dinner. Remember when you and Goskov both won back-to-back? Yeah, Dad. Yeah, Ben Rothwell. We all know you're proud of your sons. Let's go. I can't wait for these fights tomorrow, everybody. Get out there, kick some ass. Have a great week. We'll see you next week for Monday on the show, the podcast, right here. Until then, I'm sure I'll be live tweeting as much as I possibly can. I got to go see my parents, so I may be a little bit spottier than usual tomorrow during these fights, but you know damn well I'll be sneaking peeks. I'll be watching these fights as much as possibly can. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Good luck, and let's